Millions of people use DNA testing to help understand their own family heritage. But for Linda, the results rocked her world.
It's not our shame to carry. It's not our mother's shame to carry. It's the church's shame. They need to carry this, not us.
Linda grew up in southeastern South Australia with no hint of anything unusual.
Mum and Dad used to take us camping and fishing, holidays to Melbourne, up and down the river. We had a wonderful childhood.
Until she was told something that changed her life forever.
Mum told me that the man that I called Dad was actually not my real father. At 8, it was a lot to take in. I started to feel a little bit different from everybody. You always wondered who your father was.
For more than 4 decades, her mother remained tight-lipped.
I just wanted to know who he was, but it was just, don't go there. She was terrified of me finding out anything about him.
5 years ago, following her mother's death, Linda obtained a DNA kit, hoping for answers to her puzzle.
When it came back is when I realised they actually matched with biological family all around the world. And I happened to say to my aunt, I'm a Kelly. She started going, oh my God, there's something I have to tell you. And then she said, your father's Joseph Kelly. He's a Catholic priest.
Linda discovered that Father Kelly had been a family friend in the early 60s.
He would mentor families all around different parishes, and that's how we got to know the family. I was so ashamed, even more so than the stigma of being illegitimate is bad enough, but to throw a priest on the top of it was just unthinkable.
Catholic priests have been sworn to celibacy since the 11th century, but that vow can be broken. It's estimated there could be at least 10,000 children born to Catholic priests across the world.
Catholic Church didn't tell me anything about my father, despite many, many letters that I'd written.
Oliver Cosgrove is telling his story for the first time. He was only 3 years old when he was sent from London to live in a Christian Brothers orphanage in Perth.
And I just assumed that my parents were dead. But only once did any Christian brother or orphanage person tell me anything about my family. Was the day I left the orphanage to go to work. And he told me, don't bother looking for your family.
Oliver was nearly 50 when he began the search for his parents, but the church stonewalled him.
But it is a dicey business and could cause embarrassment to a lot of people if we investigated it too thoroughly. The Catholic Church told me, after I'd written several times to them, was they told me that my mother had died in that year. So I was sad and angry, but very happy to have found a family.
He met his mother's family, who suspected his father was a priest.
It took me another 30 years, till 2020, for me to find out for sure who my dad was, and that he was a priest, and that he was from Glasgow, and that my mother was his housekeeper. I think the church didn't really want me to know. As they said in a letter, it would cause embarrassment to too many people.
Oliver is now pushing for the church to take more responsibility.
At the moment, they just say the bishop has to ensure that the priests are living a priestly life, and that's it. Nothing to enforce the priest's obligation to look after the child.
I think it's really important that the Catholic Church acknowledge these children and take some responsibility.
Charlotte Smith is CEO of Vanish, the peak adoption agency. She says more people are coming forward believing their fathers were priests.
They can feel dismay and frustration, particularly if their father denies paternity or refuses contact. And finding out that you're someone's dirty secret can be extremely damaging to a person's identity, their self-esteem.
Knowing that my father was a priest is difficult because you can't really take much pride in it. You can't really take much pride in your father.
The church do not understand the trauma that we go through. It's horrendous to find out that you're abandoned by your father because he's a priest.
Linda wants the church to acknowledge that her father was a priest, plus an apology to her mum. Archbishop of Melbourne, Peter Comensoli, says while he believes Father Kelly is Linda's biological father, there's only one real way to know for sure. He's referring to exhumation, but adds, I do not have the authority to request an exhumation of Father Joseph Kelly.
I can't believe that an organisation that is meant to show kindness and compassion would actually want someone to go through the trauma of exhuming their own biological father.
Linda isn't prepared for the financial and emotional burden involved in that. So instead, she's going to court to apply for her father's name on her birth certificate.
But I do have my mother's determination, and she stood up to the church and kept me. I hope no one's put through what I'm put through. It's not right. It's not the right thing to do at all, but I will keep pursuing it, and hopefully this and the DNA helps others for the future. That's what it's about, helping others.
In 2017, the Catholic Church in Ireland actually wrote some guidelines around this very thing. Essentially, it says that the priest must give up his clerical duties, and says if a priest fathers a child, the well-being of his child should be his first consideration. He must face up to his responsibilities, personal, legal, moral and financial.
So not secrecy, basically.
Yeah, the complete opposite of what we just saw there, basically, yeah.